What's going on, guys? Welcome to the 6th episode of the War Cry podcast. I am your host, Yahola Tiger, aka the One Man Band. So this episode to me is going to be so exciting. I have a guy, a listener, who I would consider a friend. We've been talking back and forth on some things, and he decided to kind of share some stories, and his name is Derrick Morris. He's Eastern Band Cherokee from the Tennessee, North Carolina border area. He doesn't live too far from the Appalachian Trail, so I'm going to have some stories from him, and that's basically going to be the crux of the episode. I'm going to chime in on a few things. But before we get to Derrick, I was just kind of, as I go throughout my week and I think about, our watch shows. I don't know if you guys watch the show Survivor, and it's Survivor 43, I believe. I'm getting to the point with Survivor that it's just booty cheeks. It's like people my age who grew up on Survivor and they're trying to do the Survivor-y things. Drives me absolutely crazy. And, they ended the season basically, the most unlikely to win won. And that's been the kind of the thing over the last two seasons. But I mentioned that and, kind of critiquing that, another show that I kind of made me really think really hard is I've caught up on the latest episodes of Yellowstone. And one of the underlying storylines of Yellowstone is this battle for the chief or for the chairman of the tribe that they have in Yellowstone. And I'm not going to say this is what's wrong with Indian country and Indian communities and things like that. But the grab for power and, I guess the old guard, being kind of threatened by the new guard or the new way of things. And I think one thing too, that they kind of get it right in all honesty. I see that in Indian country now, just here in Oklahoma. You see kind of a shift, a change in attitudes and perspectives, and some things are good, other things are kind of okay, whatever. But the reason why I bring that up is it's kind of interesting from that show to see that kind of, dare I say, dynamic. Because I'm not gonna lie to y'all, and us Indians out here, we know we can be haters of our own people. And we don't, we always kind of, they ain't doing that great now, kind of downplaying. And I think that's one thing that I've noticed, just to kind of general, everybody's kind of nice to each other, to their face and to the public. And I see kind of the things that happen behind the scenes on some things. And I think that's kind of what Yellowstone is, whoever, Taylor Sheridan, if he had some real Indians coming in through there and say, hey, this is how we are to each other. I believe 100% in supporting each other, and that's kind of my thing. But I just thought it was kind of interesting to watch that show and kind of see the dynamics between, tribal members, but then also to tribal members and non-tribal members. And that's one of my favorite shows, just because, I love the ceremonies they do, and they talk about those ceremonies. Like the burial ceremony, I know northern tribes and northwest tribes, I know they do things like that. And, for her to cut her hair off, I was like, man, that means, that's something right there. That's moving. That means something real, happened. And, the funny part in one of the latest episodes when Casey's wife, Monica, when their little boy died, John, Rip the cowboy asked, I can't think of his name in the show, but he goes, well, why do y'all do that? He goes, I don't have to tell you, or something along the lines of I don't really have to answer you. I don't have to tell you. And Rip kind of smiles yeah, You know, that's your people. You know, so there's a lot of things that I like about Yellowstone that kind of makes me really, kind of think about some things. And I just thought I'd throw that out there. When I saw that dynamic, I said I kind of see that, here in Oklahoma with different things. And I mean, it is what it is. Some people are probably gonna be like, "Dang, he really hating on us," but it's just an observation that I have, and I'm full of observations that I notice things. But like I said, this episode, I'm gonna go ahead and move it forward here. This episode, like I said, Derrick Morris, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you sharing your stories and kind of giving some insight of what you kind of think Bigfoot is, and what some of these other entities are, or kind of the different types of Bigfoot, or whatever these creatures can be. But I appreciate it. I'm going to turn this over to Derrick now.
Sio negad, dawage dawado, chi j lage. Hello everybody, my name is Derrick, Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. These stories are coming from, if you look at the map, I mean, they're very northeastern corner of Tennessee, right near the North Carolina border. I've got a couple of Bigfoot stories for you. Sasquatch, Nanyunwe, Wado Wahi. It's got many names and many cultures. But this first story was told to me by my uncle. So I get into it. He tells me this happened in probably the early 80s, probably around September or October in deer season. He was out hunting. And he says to me, "Hey, I was out hunting, and I kept getting a nervous feeling that I was being watched or something was following me. Kept looking around and never saw anything. Didn't really hear anything either, but he just couldn't shake the feeling that that something was watching him. So after a long morning of not seeing any deer or anything, he finally decided to head back home, and he crossed a barbed wire fence. He pushed the middle strand down and crawled through, and came up and started going up a little hill, and he just got the feeling hit him real hard again to something was watching him and to turn around. So finally he turned around, and he said he saw this big hairy beast, this creature, just step over the fence, like maybe we would step over a kid's toy in the floor, just like it was not really nothing. But it stepped over, and it stopped and looked at him, and he looked at the creature, and he said it was just frozen. It was petrified. It was scared to death. And so finally the creature, he just threw his leg back over the fence, and it stepped all the way over the fence and just walked off into the woods. And he said, "I've saw a lot of things, but that time I was so scared. I'd never been that scared before." So I thought that was a pretty cool story. I'd had him tell a couple of friends that same story, and he's always told it the same way. So this uncle, he's pretty no nonsense guy. He's straight up, and honestly, I believe him. He seemed kind of rattled when he would tell the story. Kind of nervous. But he's got no reasons to make things up. So that was one story.
So that's the first story that Derrick has shared. But kind of piggyback on what his story. There's been times, like at my parents' house back when we used to have a dog named Luke. My dad would go out into the woods that we have surrounding the house, and he'd go out there and cut wood. And there'd be times where out of nowhere, my dad would stop cutting wood, or he's messing with the chainsaw, and that dog would go, kind of on its haunches and look. And my dad would listen, and the forest would be dead quiet. So that's, I really appreciate him telling that story, because that's a lot of that. When animals go quiet like that, it means there's a predator around, and that's usually kind of the key to where if something's around. But I'm gonna kick it right back over to Derrick. But I just thought I'd mention that real quick, because I just thought that was really interesting. That kind of that it's almost like a warning, like when it goes quiet like that, something's around. But here's Derrick again.
Another Sasquatch story that I have, This happened to me, of course, the same area here in Tennessee, North Carolina border. This was about 2006. It was December, and this was back when I smoked cigarettes. So I would go outside, to smoke my cigarettes because my wife didn't smoke, and I didn't want her to have to smell my bad habits. So I was outside. It was probably about 9 o'clock, 9:20 at night, and I was out smoking the last cigarette for the day. It's time to go to bed, to get up early and go to work the next morning. But I was out there and smoking, sitting on my steps, and maybe I'm going to say maybe an eighth of a mile ahead, the way I was facing, I lived on a dead end road, and the road dead end because it went up the mountain. It stopped at the base of the mountain. So about an eighth of a mile up from where I was sitting, I just started hearing this some kind of. It sounded like monkeys just woofing and chuffing and barking and just wah, 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 just going off. And it was so loud. I remember I was in shock when I heard that. Because I've been outside, and hunting and fishing and all that all my life, man. I grew up here. But I never heard that before. So I don't know what that was. I'm not saying it's a Sasquatch or something like that, but it sounded, like I said, it sounded like monkeys. It sounded like two monkeys. One would go off, and then over to the right from it was a higher pitched one. Maybe a female or something, I don't know, but they would do a back and forth exchange, maybe 4 or 5 minutes. But I was stunned, man. I was shocked. I was like, what in the world is this racket, man? It didn't sound like any other animal that I'd heard.
Wow. I mean, imagine hearing that. Imagine hearing it sound like monkeys basically in the woods. And you're in the middle of like, North Carolina, Tennessee, and like you're just hanging out, chimps. But Derrick has shared quite a few different types of audios from the Unsolved Mysteries of the Reservation podcast. He shared quite a few things, and I'm going to play an audio that was on Unsolved Mysteries of the Reservation podcast. I'm going to play that now. Yeah, like I said, he's shared, that audio clip, and then he's also shared, pictures, and he actually has a video of eyeshine that he sent us, and man, I can't believe. I was like, dang, that's pretty clear, that's pretty stinking clear. But I'm going to get back to his stories. This is his final story, and he kind of goes into what he kind of thinks Bigfoot, Sasquatch, what he thinks that is.
This was another story that I've not really told many people this, but all I can tell you is what I saw. I woke up for work one morning. I was going down the road. It was dark, of course, maybe 4:30, 4:40 a.m. And I go the same way to work every day. Just one way down the mountain. And I come around this blind corner, and I don't know, but all I know is I saw on the left-hand side of the road, beside a fence post and a fence, there was a tall, hairy figure standing right beside the road. And it was huge. I mean, it was kind of a grayish color, kind of a silverish gray, kind of like maybe charcoal gray, but its face it looked like its hair was hanging down its face, like matted looking, so the face kind of looked messed up, like just all matted and unkept hair. And the reason why I don't tell this story much, this thing stepped over the fence, and once it kicked its other leg up over the fence, it took about 2 steps. There was a big open field behind it. There was no trees or no ditches or embankments or anything. It took about 2 steps, and the only thing that I can say is it just stopped being there. It disappeared, or whatever you want to call it. It was just not there anymore. And I've never saw things, that like hallucinations. I've never done that. I was just on my way to work, but the second that I saw it, I was just shocked. Like this fear came over me, like I'd never experienced before. I've saw bear and all the usual animals around here, but just that it was almost like terror, the sheer terror. The second I saw that, just I couldn't believe what I was seeing. But like I said, it took about 2 steps, and then it was like somebody flicked a light switch. It was that quick. It didn't like vanish into a puff of smoke or nothing like that. No, it was slow, but it was just instant, just and gone. I don't know what that was. I understand Bigfoot itself is hard enough for most people to believe, but to say, oh, not only I saw a Bigfoot, I also saw one disappear. But I don't know. I'm not an expert on the subject. I just know what I saw. Like I said, I'm out hiking and fishing and things like that a lot. I found tracks, tracks that I can't explain. Just look like a big person's footprint. I found the stick structures, and I've heard some crazy howls and hoops and hollers and things like that. I live about 15 minutes from the Appalachian Trail, so we're often up there walking around and just enjoying being outside. The weather, I think, unlike today, it's raining. You can maybe hear that. But what Bigfoot is, I don't know, man. Some people say, oh, it's interdimensional, and some people say, oh, it's a flesh and blood creature. But me, humans, when you think about it, humans are both. Mankind is both. We are all spiritual beings. We're all very physical beings. So maybe it's just another kind of person. The Wado, that means the mystic tribe. A lot of people say, oh, they're just another tribe of people. When you see them, to turn around and walk away because they don't like us that much. Maybe they see what we're doing to our planet, and they don't like that. I don't know. As far as like a government, some people say, oh, the government is making them, or they're a government experiment gone wrong. I don't really believe that, because these were reported, like Vikings saw them, and people a long time ago, by 1600s, there's reports. So I'm pretty sure there wasn't a government back then. But what they are, I couldn't really say. Maybe they are just another tribe of people. But I thank you for the time and for listening to me. Talk to you later. Bye.
We talked in episode 2 of Bigfoot and medicine, and they do those things. I know he hasn't really told that story to the public, but I'd have to say, when I speak to him, I 100% believe that they can do those things. He mentioned a lost tribe. Like I said, in episode 2, I think, like I said, I agree with a lot of things that he's saying. Maybe that's Cherokee thing, I don't know, but I know that a lot of people think that this thing is like I said, government or conspiracy. This thing has been around for a long time. Man, this has been such a great episode. Golly, I couldn't hold my excitement back for this one, because man, Derrick absolutely knocked it out of the park. He did his thing on this, and he came with some heat. So, Mr. Derrick Morris, I appreciate you, man. We corresponded back and forth, and I'm gonna have him on again. He's got he's got some Appalachian Trail things that he's experienced, and he's always kind of keeping me up on the true crime that happens on the Appalachian Trail and the surrounding trails that he's around. But I have to say a big Wado to Derrick Morris. And guys, go follow me, TikTok, One Man Band 918, Facebook, Yahola Tiger, YouTube, Warcry Podcast -- One Man Band. I appreciate everybody that's been listening. We have hit the almost 800 mark as of what is today. I'm recording this on Friday night. So as of right now, we're at 800 total views and listens and downloads. And it's humbling, but I appreciate each and every one of you guys. And I'll see you on the next one.